welcome to Trail Talk here on LTTV. I'm Chris Forde, the Director of Marketing for Illinois Eastern Community Colleges and Lincoln Trail College. And as always, I am joined by Dr. Zahi Atallah, the President of Lincoln Trail College. Zahi, how are you today?
I am doing fantastic, and the conversation we're going to be having today with Melissa Lantta, who shares a lot with you in terms of football teams, is I'm sure going to be very enlightening. Her and I work together at Blackhawk, and I hold her in high esteem. Really wonderful person.
Well, and again, we're going to be talking about student success again today. So let's check out our interview with Melissa Lantta on student success here on LTTV. All right, joining us now on Trail Talk is Melissa Lantta. Melissa, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you. How are you?
So for our people that don't know you, don't know who you are, if you could introduce yourself to us, tell us a little bit about your background and what you do now.
I would be happy to. So just to kind of start a little bit at the beginning, I probably had a similar story to a number of our students. I entered college right out of high school thinking I knew exactly what I was going to do. I went to a private school and away from home, and I was incredibly passionate about it. And that pathway did not work out for me. And I ended up returning home to go to a community college. And ultimately, that was where my journey really started. I was devastated. It's hard when you have an idea in mind and you think you know what college is going to be like to have that change. And so when I entered the community college, the people that I met there were really incredibly supportive. That's where I met a lot of my mentors and people who helped support me along the journey. So spent 2 years at my local community college getting an associate degree, and then transferred to the University of Wisconsin Green Bay for my bachelor's degree. Again, same kind of situation that we've heard our students complain about or share about is my credits didn't transfer. So I had some that did, but a number that didn't. So bumpy road in that respect, but was able to get my degree in education. So from there, I did a little bit of teaching for a while, but it wasn't until I started going into my master's program that I really discovered my passion and found my people and really wanted to work with students and college students, primarily those that were exploring their majors and programs, those that were on academic probation, those that maybe had come to college and not necessarily knowing what they wanted to do or the why of why they were there. And that kind of started that journey into academic advising and student support. So I was an academic advisor at University of Wisconsin Oshkosh for a number of years and worked with many different students there, academic standing processes before transitioning to work then at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. So I had a couple different experiences with some 4-year and larger colleges and got to see a different perspective of how student support systems happened within those and how faculty development happened. And then I transitioned to working at a technical college, so Blackhawk Technical College in Wisconsin, and worked as their director of advising and then their registrar, and also managed a student success platform, Starfish, that was really designed to help throughout the holistic support of a student's life. So I spent some time there being able to really connect with students and find my passion again in working with students at the community and technical college level. Right now, I actually work for EAB, or who owns Starfish, because I felt so strongly about student success and being able to support students on a holistic level. So I work with them right now and am a strategic leader, primarily working with community colleges and the California Community College system and in Washington State. So that's a little bit about me.
Melissa, thank you for sharing a bit of your path into where you are today. And, working with the California community colleges isn't an easy chore. It's by far the world's largest higher education system, 115, 16 colleges, a centralized system in many ways, but diversified at the more local level. Washington State has also been recognized as one of the more progressive states in education, IBEST being one of the examples of what they do. But with that said, students have perhaps commonalities from your experiences and from what you've seen over the years. Do you see particular student concern themes, between quotation marks here, that have in the past and continue to affect persistence and success? And have you seen anything change with the pandemic? Do you perceive a potential change in the future?
Yeah. So I would say, we have to start with talking about basic needs and mental health. That is, I think, key to being able to see the whole student. As we look at basic needs, we have rising costs of housing, of food, childcare, all of those things where if you're really looking at prioritizing your time and what you're going to invest in, it's hard when you have no place to live and are hungry. And I think that's something that our colleges identify and know that it's a need. We've seen, food pantries popping up across colleges. It's definitely something that's there. But we've also seen childcare decrease. So I've seen a number that childcare facilities and offerings at colleges, even community colleges, is decreasing. So as we're needing more childcare and support for students who are parents, we're seeing that type of support decrease at colleges. So that's an interesting theme and something as far as a future trend that I hope will change somewhat there. We're also seeing, I would say, opportunities where I'll call it the California Community College, where they're recognizing that basic needs is important. And in the past, I think it's been part of someone's job or an aside of someone's job. And they're really looking to change that in, focusing and being intentional on having a person who helps coordinate those efforts. So again, not that it should be one person's responsibility, but sometimes when I've worked with schools, they're concerned about asking about housing or food because of the fear of that they won't be able to help support those needs. So if we ask, we should be doing something about that. And who's going to own that and own those communications and connections. And I think moving in that right direction of having funding and support of an individual who can help to start that conversation, I think is important. When I was at Blackhawk, I had some of those conversations because some of the colleges in Texas were doing that, creating that center where students can go for not just basic needs of food, but bringing in community members so students don't have to go out to, find food support or housing or connect to services. Bringing those right to the students there is something that I'm slowly seeing, and I'm hoping that kind of with this push to have someone coordinate and oversee that, that we'll start to see some really new and interesting changes and ideas of how best to connect students to those basic needs, and have that help for them. Because again, like I said, if you're hungry and tired and you're wondering where I'm going to be that next day, it's really hard to do anything else or focus on anything else. Kind of going along with that is mental health, right? the challenges with mental health. I have a partner who was recently telling me that they're, well, we hope or feel like COVID might be moving along. I'm not sure that it completely is. So this particular partner just had their dorm shut down for COVID, and they're back to quarantine. Their county is talking about mask mandating again. They've moved back to not meeting in person, so that, not only just what all of us have experienced in the last 2 years, but like, we're not good. Like, things are changing, and people's mental well-being of being in that uncertainty. How are we supporting students in the classrooms, in their taking care of themselves with everything that's going on? And we hear there's not enough access to services, between not having maybe the healthcare to be able to do it, or enough people on staff on campus who can. There are waiting lists, and students need and deserve to see someone when they need to see
Right.
someone. So I think that's still and will continue to be a top priority, and should be a top priority for colleges when they talk about how are we supporting our students, how is mental health impacting retention, what are some creative new ideas that we can invest in that are going to help support students, not even necessarily when they're in the classroom and during the semester, but that doesn't go away when they are on break or over the summer. So how are we continuing that support throughout the students' time with us, and really being able to be there for them and provide what they need for their own health and well-being, which trickles down into the health and well-being of their families as well. So,
Melissa, I do have a follow-up question, despite the fact that I told you that I wouldn't. And
I'm not surprised.
You're not surprised, yeah, quite Zahi. You and I have participated in a number of meetings whereby folks from the student support side and student academic side, we were trying to figure out how to smooth processes for students. So your passion for supporting the individual student, not a cookie cutter approach, I has personally marked me greatly. But a question from what you said, and what you said early on about yourself, flexibility is needed because students are not necessarily full-time individuals who have nothing but college to attend to. But what is the right level of flexibility is something that I'd like your perspective on. And within that context, you and I worked on whether or not we would teach off campus, whether or not busing is enough, whether or not we have those high flex polysynchronous classes. What courses we transfer in and in what format, and the grading and what have you. So with that huge question, what are your thoughts, and how would you what could you teach us?
Well, I could share my thoughts on that. Flexibility is key. But one of the things that we hear or learn is we need to talk to our students as well, as far as what does that mean for them? What does flexibility look like? What kind of learning environments best support their needs? So, for example, having classes that are online may be incredibly helpful for students who are balancing a number of different responsibilities. However, is that the best way that the student learns? Are they getting the best learning opportunities? But is that their only option, because we don't have things like the ability for, and I kind of go back to the childcare aspect. So I'll tell another sort of personal story. I have a sister who was a single parent. She was in a technical college program that was very strenuous. I mean, you could not miss. And if kids got sick, they couldn't go to childcare, which fortunately she had off campus. But it was really taxing on her, and without, support in other ways of being flexible in those classes, as far as when the students can participate and how they participate, I think is one of those areas that we need to reconsider. So yes, if we think flexible as in we want to do online or hybrid, we also need to think flexible as in what are you asking the student to do? Do they have to be there in person? Is there other options if they do need to be in person? Is there drop-off care? How are we managing all of those pieces, and maybe looking at the ways that we offer classes and support students in different ways. I think building connections too is part of that, and students seeing that they're not alone in these challenges, and being able to make those connections with other people who are experiencing similar challenges, so that they don't feel like, well, I can't do it, so I need to leave. So I don't have an answer. I think that it is about not just looking at one idea and going, okay, we're flexible because we offer online classes. Well, what are some other ways that we can be flexible and adaptive? Maybe adaptive's a better word, adaptive to what our students need, and differentiate based on them versus what we determine as flexible for courses and scheduling.
So Melissa,
I made note, adaptive to student needs. Sorry.
That's right. So Melissa, we've talked about a lot of different issues here so far that are affecting our students. What are you seeing as some of the best practices to effectively implement and take care of and remedy some of these concerns?
Yeah. So some of the ones that, I mentioned having some designated individuals who are available to help support basic needs. mental health, going outside of the college and seeing about opportunities for telehealth. I think that was a great opportunity that we have there to utilize telehealth for our students. So looking at that basic needs area, some of the other things that I've seen that some of my partners are doing and that I've experienced that I think are really helpful to student support is celebrating successes. So, as we talk about students' progress through their degree and being able to keep them on the right path and get them on the right path, keep them there, I think it's looking for those opportunities to not only nudge them back on, but what's our language with that? How are we really looking at how we speak to and communicate with students that are promoting growth mindset or that sense of belonging? I have a partner who, when students meet certain milestones towards their degree, they send them out a celebration kudos like, "Hey, you're doing it, keep going forward," which then helps with that. Somebody saw me, they saw me for something good that I'm doing. They're recognizing what I'm doing, and also opens up the door to other conversations. So here's someone who reached out to me, celebrated my success. If I need something in the future, I now have this person who I can go back to because it's someone who shared care and concern about my well-being. So I think there's a real opportunity where I've seen some colleges doing really great things around reconfiguring and revising the language that they're using with students to honor the individual and who they are and what they bring to the campus. And also just opportunities instead of looking at alerts and different things in punitive ways of really how are we being intentional about our support of students in positive ways as well. And being honest with them, having that transparency of, other people are experiencing similar things. Let me connect you to others, and really starting to call that out more than keeping it hidden. So, starting with asking students, how are you feeling about coming to college? Are you excited? Are you scared? Are you, nervous and feel like you don't belong here? And having those conversations before they even get to college, I think, or start on that first day are so important as far as, setting the foundation for how we're going to support and how people will be interacting with them when they're actually there on the first day. So.
Melissa, what is, if you were to design and define the future, what are some trends that you think are going to be adopted or continue from our past in the future in terms of support to students and, what you're saying is a wraparound set of services. So what do you see as in our future?
Oh, with my crystal ball. I see in our future, I see that, that hopefully, and I've heard talk of it, that as we're looking at support and holistic support for students, that we're starting to look at disaggregating the data, like who is getting both the praise and who's getting the alerts. So, we say early alert, and we wanted to reach out to students early and provide them with support and encouragement and resources. I think one of the future trends or things that I would hope colleges start to do is look at and take apart that data to see if they're meeting and supporting all students. And are there students who are getting alerts? Are we seeing our Black and Brown students getting more alerts or not, or alerts of certain types? And what does that mean? So I think it's being really starting to dig into our data and not just saying, we have this intervention, we're doing these interventions, they're working, which hopefully they are, but really now starting to look at who are they impacting? Are they impacting students in the ways that we want them to? And really, understanding what the data is telling us more than we have this early alert and it's working. So.
All right, well, Melissa, we've unpacked a lot today. Is there anything else that we've not asked you today that you want to share with us before we go?
Well, thank you. I appreciate this opportunity to speak with you today. I would say, I've heard Dr. Lowry Hart from Amarillo College.
Amarillo.
I always say it wrong. Amarillo College. It's my my Uper accent that gets me. To love our students to success. So love the students that are in front of you. They are in our lives. They bring such wonderful, beautiful stories of why they're there and what they want to do. Having the time to, really believe that they're here, and love them to success with all of the different supports that we can provide, knowing that each of them is unique and needs differentiated types of support. So that is my biggest message, is that we just truly care about and see our students because they want to be seen.
I think that's wonderful, wonderful advice. And with that, Melissa, we'd like to thank you for joining us on Trail Talk today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Melissa.
Well, Zahi, a great interview with Melissa Lantta talking about student success. And, one of the takeaways there is, the basic needs.
Yes. And Melissa has been, for the last 2 years, working with a company called EAB that provides software services. So she's been working predominantly with California colleges and Washington State. So she's seen the more affluent and the more affected areas. And one of the things that she specifically targeted in our conversation are the costs of basic needs for our students and how basically we need to address that in how we budget and how we plan for the year. Did you take the same message from her?
Yeah, and I just think about our own little area here and looking at the amount of students that are coming out of the K-12 feeding into us that are on free and reduced lunch coming into us. So there's a certain level of poverty just from the get-go.
Yeah.
And college is expensive.
College is expensive. Textbooks are expensive, hence the idea of open educational resources and other tools for learning. Cost of food, cost of commute. It loops back to a comment that Teresa Craig made, which is, can we add part of the financial aid package, bus fare? Melissa had a couple of those suggestions as well. But yeah, you said it. I mean, people coming in on free and reduced lunch, we know from our own, well over 95% of our students are on federal financial aid.
Yeah. The other thing that I thought was, a good takeaway was the importance of flexibility and listening to students.
Yes. It's not because we went to school in a particular format that everybody else has to go through it. She also challenged us to think about being adaptive more than flexible. Yes, flexibility at the end of the day is what we're looking for, but really listening to the student and what she or he are in need of, which again brings to my mind the question of, from a marketing, from a communication standpoint, with folks that are not our students but also our students, how does it affect what you do?
I think what that does is it keeps you on that cutting edge when you're trying to do everything you can to keep up with student demand. It's really easy, I think, for a higher ed to kind of sit back and say, this is how we've always done it, and this is how we're going to keep doing it. But because that worked that way 50 years ago or 5 years ago, doesn't mean that's the best practices today. And you always want to be keeping up with today's best practices.
Yeah, in order to fit, the demands of our current students in their current circumstances. Yeah, that's a wonderful point. That's an excellent conclusion.
So we've been talking about student success on Trail Talk, and if you enjoy videos like this, be sure and like this video, like our channel, hit the bell to subscribe and get notifications when we post new content, and definitely follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. So for Dr. Zahi Atallah, I'm Chris Forde. We'll see you next time on Trail Talk on LTTV.